Hello everybody! So in today's video I'm going to be showing you my top 3 favorite builds for Preseason 12. Now before I get into the actual video, I would highly appreciate it if you could check out the Twitch channel and my Discord server in the description down below. Thank you! It's Sonya's! Okay, so I think to no one's surprise, my favorite build for Season 12 is going to be the Mythicless Crit build. Now, because items didn't really change, this is still, in my opinion, the best build to 1v9 games with. Now, the build goes like this. You start off with Blue Smite and Potion, and then your first back should preferably be the Serrated Dirk. You then go Berserk Greaves and finish off the Essence Reaver. The reason you go Essence Reaver is because it kind of does everything that you need. It gives you CDR, it gives you Burst, it gives you Crit, so you build towards the 60% crit spike, and then it is just the perfect item. Now after Essence Reaver, you want to use the Dirk that you already have, build it into Collector, and then as a third item, always go Infinity Edge. This is going to be your core every single game. Those 3 items, always build them. Now afterwards, you can actually decide what you want to do. You can go, for example, for Duskblade. If you already have a lot of damage and you just kind of want that extra spell haste and the invisibility after a kill, helps you get out of team fights and helps you get to your next target without being spotted. You can go for something like GA if you need the extra survivability. You can go LDR if you feel like the enemy team has too much armor or too many tanks, so you need to, deal some more damage to those. You can go Prowlers if you feel like you need more flat pen. Again, the opposite would be Eclipse with percentage pen. Eclipse also helps you duel most champions a lot easier because it has the built-in Omnivamp and it has the shield and movement speed buff plus the percentage HP damage. Or you can finish off with a Gale Force, which actually gives you a dash that also does quite a lot of damage. This is kind of where you can build whatever your preference is like. And this is what my full build usually looks like with the no mythic crit build. Now the no mythic build, the runes haven't really changed much. It's still Hail of Blades, it's still Cheap Shot, so the nomination page is the exact same as before. Sorcery secondary, I used to like to take Inspiration, but I swapped to having Sorcery because I want damage, and damage is the only thing I care about, so I just take Absolute Focus, Gathering Storm. If you do want to take Inspiration secondary for a more early game oriented approach, this is what I would take.
Enemy double kill.
Run. Here we go here then. This. Bye, he dies too. He doesn't because he has smite. Fuck. Oh. So my second favorite build is still the AP build. Now, sadly, Horizon Focus and Shadow Flame, the 2 new items which were introduced or changed in Season 12, are actually not really viable in AP Shaco. The reason that is because Void Staff is just kind of better than Shadow Flame in most cases, and, well, Horizon Focus is just straight up bugged. I messaged Rad about it, but they're not really in the mood to change it, so I guess we're gonna be stuck with that one for a while. Now, the build starts off the same. You go Blue Smite with a Potion. Make sure to always get a Red Trinket your first or second back, really important. If you can afford it, get a Dark Seal. Very powerful item. And then you want to rush Liandry's. The way you decide between going Boots first or like a Phoenix Codex first is kind of up to you. I swap around between those 2 every now and then. I like to have the early game movement speed sometimes, or in other games I like to have the extra ability haste. You might want to find your own preference because I don't think one's better than the other in all cases. So find your preference and build accordingly. Now after Liandry's, you always need Cosmic Drive. We need CDR, especially because we don't have Lucidity Boots, so Cosmic Drive is a must. Now the reason I don't go Lucidity Boots over Sorcerer Boots is because I like damage. I want damage, I want to carry the game. Sure, you could argue having more boxes up and having your E more often is going to allow you to carry more, but in those mid-game to late-game team fights, having that clutch Clone Explosion, having that clutch E to finish someone off, I would much rather have more damage on that than having it up like half a second more often. Now after those items, you can decide what you need. In most cases, I will go for the Void Staff because it offers me the most damage and it allows me to shred tanks and also squishy champions by removing pretty much all of their magic resist. If you remove the MR from Void Staff and from Sorcerer Shoes, you can actually make enemy champions go to around 0 MR, which makes you deal true damage, so that's pretty cool. Now Banshees is something I don't really build too often, but into very annoying AP enemy team comps, that is a viable choice. Zhonya's of course into Assassins or very AD heavy comps, allows for that extra playmaking potential if you know how to use it. Morello works if you really need the healing reduction. In most cases I would rather have the healing reduction on my mid laner or my my AD carry or even top laner, or preferably even support. But if your team is not going to build it and you do need to build it, then Morelos is a fine choice. Now, if you are really cocky and you're really confident in your mechanics and you're really confident in not dying, then Magi's is the perfect item. This gives you so much AP for so cheap. It gives you movement speed. It is a wonderful item. Just make sure to not die, because if you do die, it turns quite useless really fast. And this is usually what my full build looks like. The AP rune page is exactly the same as last season. You can make a little tweak if you want to. Dark Harvest is a must, Cheap Shot is a must, Hyper Collection is a must. Ultimate Hunter you can debate, you might want to go Ravenous Hunter, you can try Relentless Hunter if you feel like you need the extra movement speed in the early and the mid game, but I prefer Ultimate Hunter because it also gives me that early game ult cooldown, which helps me take dragons or heralds or go for dives or, you know, make these cool out plays. So I like taking Ultimate Hunter even though it falls off quite heavily in the late game. Now secondary sorcery, of course, for Transcendence and Gathering Storm. This again makes you scale a lot better. Transcendence for the extra ability haste, and you're pretty much set. Bro, where are you taking that one? Thank you. I am the best. Touched it, let's go. Die. This build is a new addition in Season 12 because we use the now slightly overtuned Lethal Tempo in my opinion. We use it quite well actually on Shaco. Now, this is a Shieldbow build, which is more of a Bruiser build. Not really an Assassin build, but more of a Bruiser build, which, don't get me wrong, it can assassinate and it can do that really well, but it is more oriented to be a build that allows you to duel champions really easily and be somewhat tanky in team fights. Now, the way you build this build is quite different every game. The core components we're going to go over in a second, but this can be both a Bruiser and a very heavy tank build. Also, it can be a almost one-shot-ish build, but you'll see. Now, the first item always going to be Ember Knife in this one. It makes more sense than the Blue Smite. You don't really need to burst. You're looking to duel people here, so the decreased damage that you take from Ember Knife is very valuable. Now, first back, please always try to aim for the Boots of Lucidity. Very important. This makes your clear a lot better, a lot faster, and in this build, you don't really have any CDR early on, so you really want to get Lucidity Boots. Now, first Mythic is going to be Shieldbow for obvious reasons. The shield is insane. The lifesteal, dueling power is just, it's great. You're going to love this item. Now, this is where it gets tricky because this is where you have to adapt your build a bit. In 90% of the cases, I either go Bork or Wit's End. I go Bork if I'm against champions that aren't really magic damage heavy. So against champions that I want to duel and champions like, for example, a Yasuo, a Yoni, or even tanks, you know, those champions where I don't really need to survive a lot of magic damage. And Wit's End, on the other hand, is, well, exactly for the opposite. If I want to survive magic damage, if the enemy team has a lot of mages or like a lot of tanks with magic damage, then Wit's End is my obvious choice. Now, something you can keep in mind is that Bork does physical damage, meanwhile Wit's End does magical damage. So you can also use it in that case. So for example, if the enemy team is very armor heavy, you can use Wit's End to deal a bit more damage than with Bork, because Bork does physical damage, Wit's End magical damage. Now, if the enemy team has a lot of, you know, very strong 1v1 champions like Fiora, Jax, Yasuo, Yoni, these type of champions, my choice of item after Bork is usually going to be a Death Stance, or even after Wit's End. It allows you to take so much physical damage and then heal it back up with the Shieldbow, especially with the increased lifesteal from the Shieldbow passive. It is phenomenal. This is actually so fun to play. So usually my build is going to be the Immortal Shieldbow, one of those two, so Wit's End or Bork, into then Death Stance. There are certain games where I will go Bork and then Wit's End, but honestly, just play around with this build a little bit, see what you like, test different items out. That's how I do things, and then you're going to see what you like and what you don't like and what you think works and what you think doesn't work. Now, after those 2 or 3 items, you can just kind of transition into tank if you want to, or what you can also do is you can transition into going more of an assassin-ish or very damage-oriented build. Items that you can go for tankiness are, for example, Thornmail. This gives you healing reduction. You can also go Spirit Visage if the enemy team doesn't have any healing reduction, has a lot of magic damage, and that will allow you to sustain up quite easily with Bork and Shieldbow. And then you can also go Force of Nature if the enemy team is, again, very magic damage heavy, and you have a harder time to actually stick to your targets because this item gives you quite a lot of movement speed. And this is usually, in most cases, what my build will look like. I like to go the more aggressive variant in a lot of the cases with the Lord Dominic's to shred tanks and to even go for one-shots. But in the end, it is kind of up to you what you want to do. And this is the only build where you kind of have to experiment around a bit to see what you like. You will get a feel for this build quite soon, I can assure you. The rune page for the Shieldbow build is quite a bit different. I'll go over it in a bit more detail to make you guys understand why I choose this. Now, Lethal Tempo is better for extended fights than Hail of Blades. Now, the reason I go Presence of Mind is because I run out of mana all the time in team fights. I hate running out of mana. It is really annoying. So I decided to start taking Presence of Mind, and ever since, never had mana problems. So it fixed my problem. If you don't run out of mana and you don't have that issue, Triumph is 100% better. If I could, I would prefer taking Triumph, but I run out of mana. I want Presence of Mind. So that's a little bit of a quirk of mine, I guess, but definitely Triumph is better. If you can, run it. If you can't, just stick with Presence of Mind like me. Now, for the second row, there's two choices you have, either Alacrity or Tenacity. I think Bloodline doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is good for AD carries, but I think we don't really need that. I'd much rather have the increased attack speed, which makes me deal more damage, which also ends up making me heal more because of Shieldbow and Bork, which I usually have, so that makes a lot more sense in my opinion. Tenacity is good if you're playing against very heavy CC comps, something like a Leona, something like a Zac. Those champions can be really annoying to deal with. They're going to push you around, keep like stunning you, so in that case, Tenacity is a very good rune. Now, out of these three choices, I think Last Stand kind of makes the most sense. You're not really looking to kill low HP targets, or at least not one-shot them. You're not really looking to shred tanks. I mean, you kind of are, but the problem is you're going to be quite tanky yourself, so is that really worth it? And then I think Last Stand just kind of makes the most sense because, again, you're looking to have those fights, and sometimes, a lot of the times actually, the fights are going to be quite close. You're going to drop to low HP. At that point, your Shieldbow procs, Last Stand procs, and boom, suddenly you're just this monster of a champion to fight. Now, for secondary runes, I like to take Ingenious Hunter and Eyeball Collection. Now, Ingenious Hunter is really, very powerful because it makes your Shieldbow go from a 90-second cooldown to a 60-second cooldown. Super insane. It also works on stuff like Bork, so it is just wonderful. And then Eyeball Collection is up to debate. You can also go Cheap Shot if you want to. You can go Sudden Impact. I just find having Eyeball Collection is what gives me the best results, I guess. And that is pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, Discord and Twitch, link in the description down below. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.